Hey friends, hope you're doing so great. I don't have a camera on me today. It's one of the rare videos where I'm walking around without a camera. That's because we just have some things to talk about. And what we have to talk about is cameras, but not a particular camera. In fact, we have a lot of cameras to talk about. We have all the cameras to talk about. We have all the cameras that I use, all the cameras I have used. Because if you follow this channel since I started, you'll know that I've shot on Fujifilm, I've shot on Canon, I've shot on Sony, I've shot on Nikon, I've shot on Lumix, I'm using a GoPro right now, I've used an iPhone, I've used a lot of different cameras, right? I've used pretty much all the systems. Olympus, I don't know, that's a system. I haven't used Leica because I don't have Leica money. Maybe one day I will though. And I was actually just talking to my buddy about that too. The point is, I've used all these cameras, lots of different cameras from lots of different brands. And there's been times where like people have watched my content and they've been like, you're just like a Fuji fanboy, or like whatever, you're like a Canon apologist or what. Because for a few weeks I'm using a particular camera a lot, so I'm talking about it, and it's crazy because people put you into these factions, and they, here's the thing. Camera companies want you to validate your identity through their brand. They want you to think that in order to be X type of photographer, you have to use their camera, whether that is Leica with street, whether that is, or like maybe Fujifilm with street, whether that is like Canon or Sony or Nikon, maybe like going after sports or going after portraiture or going after events or weddings or whatever. They want you to think, if I'm going to be this type of photographer, I have to use this type of camera, because that's aspirational. And if they can get you to think that, then you are on the hook. They've got you. And the thing is, they don't care. Like they don't really care about you as a person or you as a creative all that much. As a big company, there's people within the company that care. For example, one of the reasons I've been shooting so much with Nikon over the past while is because, one, I really like their cameras. I think they've got really great cameras, and I really like their lenses, and I like the choices that they're making as a company. I like that they're a smaller brand compared to Canon and Sony. But the other reason is because, well, there's a couple. One, y'all are really interested in that, and because I have the cameras, I might as well shoot with them and I might as well make content about them, right? Doesn't mean that I am like a Nikon fanboy. I actually don't really care all that much. But the other reason is because Nikon has consistently been working with me. They've been allowing me to borrow cameras and gear, and that makes my life easier as somebody who does this stuff on the internet, because I can't afford to just go out and buy gear all the time. That's a pricey endeavor, and so I'm often cycling, and so I can't have multiple systems all the time that I'm shooting on. However, I do shoot on several different brands, and that's relative to what I'm shooting. So I do shoot on Nikon for a lot of my professional work, but I also use Canon for some of my professional work, and actually for a lot of my film work, I'm shooting on Canon and Minolta. I know Minolta isn't really in the conversation of current camera brands, but the point is, I am using many different camera brands, and I think you should too. And I think if you are tied too closely to your identity, wrapped up in like being a particular kind of photographer, and that meaning you have to use a certain type of camera, I don't know, man, that sucks. And if you're holding other people to that too, or if you're condemning people by saying like, well, you only shoot with this camera, so therefore you must be biased or something, like just remember that, like, first of all, if you're telling that to somebody on YouTube, like the way YouTube works rewards people who are putting out consistent content about consistent things so that people will consistently go back to them. So if I become known for having a lot of Nikon videos, which I have now, I mean, I've got like 30, 35 Nikon videos, then people who like Nikon can jump into my videos and they can hopefully get some value from them, but they can also feel like they've found somebody who is talking about the things that they care about, and they can get, they can get some sense of community, and that's cool. It doesn't mean that it's the be all end all. It doesn't mean that I will forever shoot on Nikon. It just means that's what I'm shooting on right now. And so I guess this is just like a rant, a bit of a conversation around the idea that like you as a person, as a photographer, are a photographer. You're not a Sony photographer. You're not a Canon photographer. You're not a Fujifilm photographer, unless you're like an ambassador for these brands and they're paying you money and publicly that's what you have to use. Then yeah, maybe you are a Canon photographer, you're like, what do they call it? Like a capture of light, a light painter. I don't remember what they call it, but you are not these things. You are a photographer first or a videographer first, and these are the tools that you're using. And it's very rare in other industries, I would say, that you have to lock into using one thing to make your art. Like, I'm gonna be telling tales out of school here because I don't paint, but I would imagine there are people who are like, they swear by certain brushes, they swear by certain paints, they swear by certain canvases, but it doesn't mean that like they are those brand of painters. No, they're just painters who happen to use those things because it works best for what they do. If they were to jump into a different type of painting, maybe they wouldn't use that. Maybe like a company that is making, God, this is going off the rails because I don't know, but maybe if they're making like oil paintings and then they switch to doing watercolor, maybe the brand that makes the oil paint doesn't make the best watercolor paint, so they switch to a different brand. And that would be fair, right? Because it's all about creating the content. So for me, when I'm looking at the type of content I want to create, that's going to inform what camera I'm going to use. Not even what camera brand, but just what fucking physical camera. I don't care about the brand. I'm using the GoPro 12 because it's what I have and it's convenient, and it's honestly how I want to start making my content more and more on this channel. I'm using the Nikon when I'm shooting a wedding because it is, to be honest, like the Nikon Z8 is the best camera I have for that right now. If I had a better camera for that, I would use it. And in the future, I probably will, maybe, or I might stick with it for my whole wedding career. I don't know. But the point is, I am not holding myself to having to be a particular brand because that brand is not, I don't know, they just want my money. And if I make nice images, they might want to use those images, and that's cool too, but like, they just don't care. And they shouldn't. Because if a huge camera brand had a vested interest in what every single person thought about them and thought about their cameras and all that kind of stuff, they would be a pretty bad business. They just wouldn't survive. It can't work that way, right? The numbers wouldn't make sense. They have to make stuff on a large consumer basis. They have to focus on getting your money to appease their shareholders, blah, blah, blah. You don't matter. It's just a big lie that they have told you so that you can feel an identity, because we would rather wrap our identity up in a physical thing than we would in our art. Because wrapping it up in our art is scary, because if people don't like our art, that feels really personal. And so we've replaced that with like, oh, well, if you don't like Fujifilm, fuck you, because I shoot Fujifilm, so you're attacking me. But like, there's a safety there because you can be like, you're attacking this brand that I love. You're not attacking my art that I've made with it. And even if they do, if they're like, oh, this looks like trash because you shot on Fuji, you can be like, well, you know, you were attacking Fuji, not my art. When maybe if you had, if you were strong enough in your convictions to, like, let's say I start a new channel and I never once talk about what camera I use, I never mention it, I just do the art, which is a much more pure way of doing it, I'm sure, but a harder way because you don't get as many views. It's harder to make ends meet if you're trying to make money off of YouTube, but blah, blah, blah. The whole idea being, if your art is what matters to you most, your camera brand probably is what matters to you least. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Peace.